We have a really important saying in the Bitcoin space. You are the yield. And unfortunately, the CEO of a South Korean exchange found out that rug pulling your customers could have very dire consequences. Let's dive into this story. Welcome back, everyone. This is a very interesting and frightening story out of South Korea. Look, a lot of times in this space, we hear of a lot of outlandish promises, but sometimes those promises are not too good to be true sounding, which makes them plausible sounding and is pretty likely to engage a lot of the population into thinking this may be a legitimate project. Anyways, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Haru investment platform. And of course, like many other products in the space, essentially the pitch is this, right? They are going to give you a certain rate of return based on your deposits to their platform. Now, in Haru's case, they were offering 12%. 12% sounds great. And it also doesn't sound entirely unreasonable. So people think, well, this can't necessarily be a scam because they're not giving me too much, right? It's not unbelievable that a business like this, especially with the numbers that we've seen around this space, right, of people making thousands of percent in a day, in a week, in a month, 12% annual is very fair. That's how they get you. Now, let's dive into the story as to what happened with Haru, because it is a long series of unfortunate events that all started with the promise of 12% earnings. So we fast forward to June 13th, 2023. Okay, June 13th, 2023, Haru Invest, South Korean investment-bearing crypto platform, halts deposits and user withdrawals. But guys, remember, whenever you see something like this, they're always doing it for your benefit. They're always trying to protect you from your money. And of course, right on cue, Haru said that it was necessary to halt transactions in order to protect investors following a business error. So let's think this one through. The company that you've entrusted with your Bitcoin has made a terrible mistake, and in order to protect you, they're shielding you from your own money. Please tell me more. Everybody remembers Celsius, Voyager Digital, Babel Finance, CoinFlex, and BlockFi, right? Guess what? When they started to go under, what was one of the first things they did as well? They halted withdrawals. So as you and of course, in the end, they all ended up claiming bankruptcy, but halting withdrawals is like the biggest red flag. Like at that point, once they've halted withdrawals, if you're lucky, okay, they will re-enable them for a really short period of time. And I swear, if for whatever reason you put money into garbage platforms like this for yield and they give you an opportunity to withdraw, take it. Get your money off of these platforms. There's not a single one that ends in victory, okay? It's one rug pull after another. Anyways, let's continue with the South Korean story. How did this happen, right? Why did this happen? Well, according to Haru Invest, they actually declined to name the specific partner that was impacting its operations. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go and throw somebody that we're working with under the bus. The firm's LinkedIn page had been deleted, but its Twitter profile is still functioning. Yay. And take a look at this, guys. Upbit, a South Korean-based exchange, said it would be limiting Haru Invest's ability to withdraw assets on its platform as well. Now, another red flag that is pretty interesting is this, right? Haru's Invest office in Seoul is empty because employees are working from home for their own safety. So, a lot of these employees, they're just getting paid a salary. They are not the ones that are going to be making millions of dollars on this rug pull. But yet, because of a CEO and a couple of guys decided to rug pull, all of a sudden, these people's safety is in jeopardy. And yes, believe it or not, this story actually gets worse. Trying to figure out what actually happened. Okay, this is what Haru said. The company explained that it decided to halt services after finding that information provided by a partner, specifically a consignment partner, was false. And if you're saying to yourself, Phil, that really didn't tell me anything, that's the point. It's just a vague statement that essentially could be repurposed at a later date where you can add more details, right? And essentially paint a picture around it. And then it's like, well, look, we didn't explain it right away, but this was the real detail behind it. So this is just a cop-out explanation. That's all it is. Now we're fast forwarding to February 6th of this year, 2024. Haru Invest execs arrested in South Korea for allegedly stealing $828 million worth of crypto. Oh, what a surprise. So when we look back at the statements like, for the purpose of protecting our users' assets under our custody, we have come to make a tough decision that any deposit and withdrawal request will be suspended until further notice. It makes you think maybe they were lying, huh? Just maybe. Anyways, so now let's fast forward to today, which at the time of this recording, it is August 28th. And lo and behold, okay, and I don't think I've ever seen this type of behavior before, but it was reported that a violent attack happened in court. The CEO of Haru was stabbed during the trial in Seoul, okay? So let's dive into it. The CEO, whose name has not been yet made public for security reasons, was attacked by a man who managed to bring a weapon into the courthouse. The assailant, who seemed driven by a strong feeling of anger and frustration, you think, delivered several blows to the abdomen of the executive before being stopped by law enforcement officers present at the scene. Despite the immediate intervention, the aggressor managed to inflict serious injuries, which necessitated a desperate rush to the nearest emergency room. Currently, the CEO is in critical condition. The doctors are doing everything possible to stabilize him, but his condition remains extremely serious. The alleged deception resulted in a loss exceeding $1.2 billion. Okay, for 16,000 quote unquote investors, right? And this wasn't just in South Korea, right? This was both domestically and internationally. Apparently that yield, the chase for yield, has a price, even for the CEO and his executive team. So, this lesson is that, although in the past, and again, I'm not condoning, violent behavior or anything like that, but I do think that we are starting to get to a point where people are just tired of being taken advantage of being abused, and of being grifted. And you know what? I understand that a person like the attacker may seem like, oh, well, this particular person is mentally ill. And that may be the case, right? That may be the case that the person is mentally ill. So they figured that the best course of action was for them to physically attack the CEO in the courtroom and stab him. But the reality is that person is a symptom of a much larger issue. At some point, we need to start to recognize that people like this are symptoms of a broken system, okay? And that system is causing people to start to really act out. And just for the sake of transparency, I'm not saying that the attacker is a blameless victim. Of course, it was completely insane to go and do this. But my point is that we may, unfortunately, as things continue to deteriorate, believe it or not, as the money gets worse, as the rate of these scams continues to increase and become worse, we may unfortunately see more and more people deciding to take the law into their own hands. And that, to me, again, is a symptom of societal frustration. Anyways, I thought that was a really interesting story. I do think, even though it's nice to cover the hopium and it's nice to dump on the shit coins and everything like that, it's also really important, I think, to cover these types of situations. Usually what we end up reading is that, somebody disappeared, or unfortunately they, committed suicide. or we end up hearing about people getting attacked for their cold storage, right? Ransom and stuff like that. So in this case, this was a little bit different, right? This was a little bit different. This particular guy decided to take his beef to the courtroom. And I guess he figured this was the best place to dole out his justice. Anyways, guys, interesting times, very interesting times ahead. That's all I wanted to talk about today. I am going to catch you tomorrow.